going to talk about the truth about debt consolidation, especially for your credit cards. This is a big issue because it is the number one reason people take a personal loan is for debt consolidation. What we want to talk about is when should you, when shouldn't you, what are the risks, and what are the other options? Steve, you've looked into this a little bit. Let's figure it out.
I mean, this is a big, scary issue I think people face is, should I take one? When should I take one? Why should I take one? Is it going to hurt my credit score? Is it going to help my credit score? Am I a bad person for doing this?
There's so much involved in this issue, and not the least of which is just this sense of shame. I got myself into all this debt and I just want it to go away. What's the fastest and easiest way can I make it go away? We need to dispel that sense of shame, regardless of how you got here, whether it was medical debt, whether you were making bad financial decisions. We don't care how you got here. Get rid of that shame, shuck it off your back, and let's talk specifically about what you can do to move forward rationally.
And I think a lot of times, I think one of the most important parts for me going into this episode was there are a lot of people that take advantage of people in these situations. And I think we're going to talk about that. And so we want to make sure people also feel a sense of optimism that there are opportunities for them to get out of the pressure and making sure they understand what those options are.
If there's not much else you take out of this conversation, what we do want you to learn is that not all debt consolidation is created equal. There are lots of different terms for what people call debt consolidation. And we want to make sure that you understand the best things for you and what you should be wary of. And we're not going to tell you what to take and what not to take, but we are going to tell you the things you ought to be at least aware of because they're not all equal. The most important thing that we want to lead out with is this idea that the best debt consolidation is the debt consolidation that gets you out of debt faster, and it also preserves your future options.
One of the biggest things going into, consideration for debt consolidation is what's happening with your interest rates on your current debt that you're carrying, and can you get a better debt rate? Can I start to make good financial decisions before I make this jump? If you have a bad credit score and you don't have cash on hand, you get worse deals, which make it even harder to climb out of it. I think debt consolidation helps you so you don't just continue to run with the weights on your back. And I think so there are positives, but this isn't a, oh my gosh, I got free money, let's go spend more money situation. This is, how do I improve my current financial situation so that my future financial life is better?
When we think about the idea of debt consolidation is a proactive move towards making progress.
Well, here, let's just cut to the chase. What is debt consolidation? Let's just make sure that go ahead and just say it.
The whole point of debt consolidation is it's a lot of things. So let's talk about on one spectrum, debt consolidation is just taking all of your existing higher interest debt, bringing it down into one payment, one personal loan. On the far other side, there's this idea of debt consolidation or debt management programs or debt consolidation programs or debt settlement programs. And those are different in the sense that they are not lending. The downside to those programs is that you're often working with a company and you're paying them money to strategically default on your loans until your lenders decide to make a deal with you and allow you to write off the debt for less.
Yeah, so that goes back to that statement of preserving your financial future.
Yes.
And is that the right thing? I think one of the things for me is that a lot of times when the pressure is on you, you feel like you're not able to make the decisions and take the actions you need. And so you turn to others and you're giving them the power. The reality is, by doing that, you actually might be hurting yourself. And so if you just think about the things to be wary of, and the things to be concerned about, that's it. And you have options, and you don't necessarily have to hire somebody, and then that could put you in a worse situation because their job is to make money.
They often can help you get out of debt faster, but it may not be to your long-term benefit. For instance, if you're jumping out of an airplane, I can tell you the fastest way to get to the bottom of get back to earth, and that's to not pull the ripcord, right? You're going to get to the bottom, but your future options at that point are no longer there. We're talking about getting you out of debt in such a way that you can do it quicker, but you can also make sure that your future financial life is the way you want it to be and that you can have more options in the future. What we encourage you is you ought to be wary of debt relief programs, debt settlement programs, and debt payoff programs. But you got to be wary of them because, again, what you're doing is you're paying them a big chunk of money to essentially trash your credit and to make your life much more difficult in the future.
You said a big chunk of money. Give the audience an understanding.
They're going to charge you 25% of the debt that they get charged off. So they are going to be fairly aggressive about trying to get your debt charged off. But 25% is a big number. And that's a lot of money that you could have used to negotiate with these companies yourself. And that would have been more money.
And to be clear, that doesn't help your credit score.
It is very much going to hurt your credit score. And what it will mean is that you're not going to have any credit options for the foreseeable future as you do this. Because keep in mind, this isn't just a rip your Band-Aid off. This is a program that's going to take 3 years of negotiating and working, which means 3 years of defaulting on your loans before you can even begin to rebuild your credit and begin to hope to get credit again, whether it's a car loan, a mortgage, or even a credit card.
What else do we need to be on the lookout for?
You should be wary of for-profit companies that do debt settlement. They do have a profit motive, right? They are out to make money off of the situation, and which means they're going to make decisions that are best for them. And I think you should be wary of companies that don't lend at all. That means they only have one option and they're going to push you down that path. If they do not have an APR, if they can't tell you what the APR on the program is because there is no APR, this is just a fee, that's another example that they only have one option that they're going to push you down.
Right.
And you should be very wary of companies that overpromise how much of the debt they can eliminate, because it's not up to them. It's going to be up to your creditors. It's going to be how they deal with them. And, you're going to have to be worried about that. Let me give you another reason why some of these debt relief programs can be a problem. They sound great, and in theory, they work even if they trash your credit. That's theory. If a company wants to, they can reject your offers and actually sue you for the money. They can put a lien on your house. They can come after you for the full amount. There is no reason, there's no law that says they can't come after you. You got to be really careful of this approach because it's not just about your credit, right? You may say, hey, my credit's already 400. It's not going to get any worse, which is true. But they could come after whatever assets you have or also try to sue you for the money.
Sometimes it feels like if I could just give this problem to somebody else for them to manage, it'll go away. And the reality is that's not true. You're going to have to participate and maybe be more engaged in this than what you feel comfortable. And we want to make sure that you're okay with that.
And you may not believe this now, but the more engaged you are, the less stress you're going to feel. Most of the stress of being in debt is this idea of not wanting to face the problem. It feels too big. It weighs on you. If you face it head on, you will actually feel less stress than if you ignore it.
So, Jonathan, we've done a great job of telling people not to do anything. Switch gears. Can we please switch gears and give them some hope?
If you are in a bad debt situation and you really do feel like you need debt settlement or debt relief, you should seek out a nonprofit organization. Nonprofit organizations are great for this because they don't have the profit motive. They're not making money off of you in the sense they may charge you a little bit just to keep their lights on, but they don't have the same maximize the profit motive that a for-profit company, which means that they are going to really try to help you out. And there's a lot of nonprofit organizations out there that can help you. We're not going to list any here because there are not very many of them that are national organizations. Most of them are organizations in your community that can help you. So you need to research out the ones that are near you. But if they're a nonprofit organization, they may be really good for you. You should also consider consolidation loans. I know that consolidation loans feels like the last thing I need is more debt. But the thing about consolidation loans is that they actually can help make sure that the money you are putting towards your debt is actually being more constructive and getting you out of debt faster if you can actually lower that payment and you can lower your interest rate and you can prevent yourself from extending out the term of your debt. You don't want higher interest, you don't want a longer term, and you don't want a bigger payment.
Yeah, they can be very helpful.
Seek out credit counselors. There are individuals who do this for a living, help people walk through their debt. They are financial advisors. They can look at your particular circumstance and give you really good feedback on what is possible and what the plan is.
The most important part that we want to stress to you in this situation is, 1, there are options. 2, don't give your decision to somebody else. 3, if you don't know, ask. Probably the most important part of this also is have a plan versus living in the emotion of where you're at today. Let's dig into debt consolidation and let's just help people understand the essentials before they do this, because it can work. You can get money very fast and you can move down the path.
The first thing is you really need a debt payoff strategy, right? You need to be able to be very clear about what you're going to need to do in order to eliminate the debt over time.
Yeah. And so just to kind of build on that. So before you take the loan, have the plan to pay back the loan. It's very simple. Don't take the loan until you have a plan. And once you have a plan, take the loan.
Also, understand when you're making the decision what the implications to your future are. You need to make sure that you are doing something that doesn't just solve today's problem, but that helps you a year from now, 2 years from now, and 3 years from now. If you're looking at loans for debt consolidation, you need to understand your effective APR. You need to understand what your effective APR is right now. And you need to know what the effective APR will be if you take the loan. Because if you don't, you might think you're making a good decision and you might not actually be improving your situation much, even if you're consolidating to one payment.
And what is your effective APR?
The effective APR is essentially the overall APR you're paying on all of your debts. If you've got let's say you've got 5 debts, but the debt consolidation that you can get isn't any cheaper than 2 of them. The last thing you want to do is consolidate those 2 loans, even if it's going to make your life easier because it's a single payment. You're going to pay off faster if you keep all the loans that have a higher effective APR roll those into the debt consolidation loan, and all the loans that have a lower APR than what you could get with the debt consolidation loan out of it and pay them separately. You'll pay off faster. So you really need to understand where that line is and what the improvement is going to be. Finally, do your research.
And apply for a lot. Like, make sure you apply to 3 or 4.
Yes. Part of the research isn't just learning about the different organizations in your area, but it's also if you think a debt consolidation loan is your right way to go, don't just look into 1 or 2 companies. Don't just look into one company, find out if you're approved and take that loan. You owe it to yourself to apply to several companies. And you know what? If these companies are reputable, upstanding companies, they're only going to use a soft credit pull. They're not going to hurt your credit. So you should apply for as many as you can and then take the one that gives you the best option, the lowest APR, the lowest term length, the best terms, the ones that don't have origination fees, the ones that don't have late payment fees. Especially if you have damaged credit, you might just automatically assume you can't be approved for certain companies. That may be true. It may not be true. They all have different underwriting strategies, and they often look at different things. And you know what? I've been in the lending business for quite a while, and I don't know any lender who just lends on your credit score. So you don't know for sure. Credit score is a pretty good indication of whether you can get a really good loan, but it's not an indication of whether you can get any loan or a particular loan.
Do your research. There's a lot of great places you can go to do your research. Obviously, you can do your research at the Yukon Project. We have a whole entire area for consolidation loans and personal loans for you to research. We don't care if you take one. What we do care about is you research and you know what you have available to you. And then you can make the right decision, which leads us to the next and the most important finish. Make a plan, shop around, don't assume. Please don't live in the stress. Please live in the plan.
We believe that you can do this. People get out of debt and they can do that and they can live a better financial future, but you got to not live in the stress, live in the plan.